Stepping into the violence layer of hell, V1 enters a blinding white room and passes by a field of crosses before entering the garden of forking paths. Doors open and close, guiding V1 to a room filled with very unsettling mannequins covered in blood. Having to find a skull to open the doors, V1 backtracks and discovers a nearly incomprehensible journal that says, "The unending halls of the garden." So dutifully decorated by the cross, the symbol that angels use for their tree of life. They praise their beloved Father, who has planted it and filled us with the dew of its leaves and the nectar of its fruit. That which gives us life courses through our veins. For you, however, are truth. Our bodies are not a vessel for the blood of the fruit, but its prison. The beautiful guts and gorgeous bones yearn to be shown and seen. Splayed under the divine cross of the tree of life, we pay it tribute through the art of violence. The world is your canvas, so take up your brush and paint the world red. We eventually find the skull hidden away in a room full of these mannequins. Grabbing it and turning around, all of the mannequins now stare at us and we collectively shit our pants. Slowly stepping by and placing the skull on the pedestal, the mannequins finally come alive and attack. After God's disappearance, many sinners from the violence layer tried to escape, believing that heaven's wardens were no longer guarding them. However, they discovered that the Garden of Forking Paths was no ordinary maze. Its cruel design, imbued with malicious intent, ensured their failure. The labyrinth's halls were crafted to disorient, similar enough to prevent direction, yet subtly different to deny familiarity. Exhaustion inevitably overtook each escapee, and as they succumbed, a horrifying transformation began. Their bodies were dismantled joint by joint, their shattered limbs forced into hollow statues, bringing the grotesque mannequins to life. In hell, death is a rare mercy, and these sinners who sought to defy their fate now ensure eternal torment, trapped within the mannequins. They have lost all control of their bodies, cursed to perpetuate their punishment by ensnaring others who dare brave the labyrinth. Killing waves of these creatures, V1 is nearly trampled as a Minotaur comes barging through the walls. The Minotaur, one of Hell's oldest surviving demons, was originally sculpted by as a grotesque gift for Minos, the judge of hell. Intended as a monument to death and despair, the Minotaur was meant to forge a connection between its creator and Minos. However, Minos saw it not as a tribute, but as a horrifying reminder of his own past failures. Overcome with fear and disgust, he banished the creature to the Garden of Forking Paths, hoping it would remain hidden forever. Now ancient and deteriorating, the Minotaur stumbles blindly through the labyrinth, its body failing and pieces falling away. Consumed by desperation, it clings to a singular, fading desire to break free and see the sky one final time. Hopping on a tram, the Minotaur emerges from the shadows and chases us relentlessly. We are able to knock it down and reach the exit, but not before it comes back for a final fight. Finally killing the Minotaur and putting it out of its misery, V1 continues on and encounters another new enemy called the Gutterman. The Guttermen were early automatons created during the initial days of the Final War, marking one of the first successful uses of blood as a fuel source. These machines were deployed en masse during the trench warfare phase, dropping directly into enemy trenches. Their methodical advance forced soldiers into an impossible choice: face death at the hands of the Guttermen or flee into the open, only to be gunned down. Due to the lack of technology to preserve blood inside of the machines, each Gutterman carried a live fuel source, humans strapped inside and kept alive by minimal life support before being sealed within the machines. While officially described as volunteer patriots, these unfortunate individuals were often deserters, traumatized soldiers, or prisoners of war, subjected to unimaginable suffering. This inhumane practice caught the attention of otherworldly forces, reveling the depths of human cruelty. The torment of these living fuel sources would later inspire the creation of mannequins, carrying forward the cycle of suffering into Hell's grotesque design. And speaking of war, after killing the Gutterman, V1 steps into an active war zone. Off in the distance, artillery fires into the night sky, illuminating massive walking machines. Fighting through various machines, V1 discovers its way is blocked in rubble and must use something big to clear its path. As we look for a bomb to clear our path, we come across yet another new machine variant called the Gutter Tank. The Gutterman's brutal success in ending the trench warfare era prompted armies to rush to develop countermeasures, spawning the next generation of war machines. The Gutter Tanks, built from the remnants of the Guttermen, were equipped with powerful explosives and weapons capable of destroying thick armor, making the once dominant Guttermen obsolete. As machines outpaced human soldiers, the latter were quickly phased out of combat, giving rise to the second era of the Final War. This new phase was defined by relentless machine-on-machine combat, where designs constantly evolved to counter the previous generation, creating a relentless cycle of technological arms races. Though soldiers initially celebrated returning home, they soon found their victories hollow. The unending pursuit of better war machines drained all resources, and impoverished civilians struggled to survive amidst the fallout. The once thriving home front had become another battlefield, marked by societal collapse and chaos, a war of all against all. Finding a bomb, we bring it back to the blockage and continue our journey. Entering a total tonal shift, we find ourselves in a dark forest, needing a flashlight to even be able to see. V1 eventually finds a tombstone that reads, "Feed us, we will grow," and finds a strange dead tree with what looks like a man impaled on top. From the ground, blood creatures begin to rise, and once killed, their blood waters the tree, eventually causing it to bloom in blood-red leaves. After watering 3 trees in blood, we continue on and run right into one of those massive machines we saw in the distance, otherwise known as an Earthmover. The Earthmovers represented the zenith of the Final War's arms race, earning them the moniker Horsemen of the Apocalypse for their devastating power. Capable of leveling entire cities with ease, these colossal machines marked the final era of the war. Equipped with shield generators and requiring both blood and solar power to operate, they were near invincible from the outside, serving as mobile fortresses for smaller war machines. As global conflict escalated, the Earthmovers left the world ablaze, forcing surviving civilians to abandon the surface and build their homes atop these mechanical giants. The Earth below became a lifeless wasteland, unable to sustain any form of life. But as war raged on, the soot, smoke, and destruction darkened the skies, plunging the world into the long night. Deprived of sunlight, the Earthmovers shut down, one by one, bringing the large-scale conflict to an end. With the war machines silenced, humanity faced the consequences of its actions. The long night forced cooperation to reverse the environmental devastation, ushering in the new peace after 200 years of senseless war. Slowly, the planet began to heal, and the remnants of the Earthmovers stood as haunting monuments, a grim reminder of how close humanity had come to self-inflicted annihilation. Climbing this monster, V1 fights wave after wave of machines and demons until it reaches the Earthmover's brain and destroys it, initiating a self-destruction sequence. Narrowly escaping, V1 blows up the Earthmover and continues on its journey into the final layers of hell. So this was the craziest of all the layers we entered so far, just by how unique each section was and all the lore we now know about humanity and the machines. But first, the mythology. In Inferno, the violence layer is where sinners who committed acts of violence are punished. It is divided into 3 rings, each punishing different forms of violence. Following Aristotle's classification of sin in Nicomachean ethics, violence against others, self, and God. The first ring is violence against others, murderers, tyrants, and war makers. These sinners are submerged in boiling rivers of blood, symbolizing the bloodshed they caused in life. The second ring is violence against self, suicides and squanderers. Suicides are transformed into gnarled, thorny trees, known as the Wood of Suicides. They cannot regain their human form, symbolizing how they rejected their bodies in life. Whereas the squanderers, those who wasted their lives through reckless self-destruction, are chased and torn apart by rabid dogs. And the third ring is violence against God, nature, and art. This section contains 3 subcategories of sinners: blasphemers, violence against God; sodomites, violence against nature; and usurers, violence against art. All sinners in the ring are exposed to an endless rain of fire while standing or moving across a barren, burning desert. Their posture reflects the nature of their sin. Blasphemers lie on their backs, sodomites are forced to walk endlessly, and usurers sit hunched over, staring at their family crests. Ultrakill's depiction of the violence layer isn't as fucked up as Dante depicted it. However, there are a few similarities, particularly the forest where we water trees with blood, as it likely references the Forest of Suicides. As for the Minotaur, it originates from the myth of King Minos of Crete, who angered the god Poseidon. As punishment, his wife was cursed to fall in love with a bull, leading to the birth of the Minotaur, a monstrous creature with the body of a man and the head of a bull. In Inferno, the Minotaur is the guardian of the violence layer. When Dante and Virgil enter the violence layer, the Minotaur reacts with uncontrollable fury, thrashing around in mindless aggression. Virgil taunts the Minotaur, referencing Theseus's victory, which causes it to go mad with rage, allowing Dante and Virgil to slip past. It seems like its mythological origin is somewhat intact in Ultrakill, as it was created by an unknown individual and gifted to Minos, who, rather than seeing it as a horror, saw it as a reminder of his own failures, and cast it into the Garden of Forking Paths. So this tells me that there was a real Minotaur at some point before Minos was sent to hell. Moving on to the now confirmed facts about humanity, we now know that humanity's downfall was not just due to war, but also its relentless technological advancements, which likely eventually killed them all. The final war saw the rise of increasingly inhumane war machines, and as humanity pursued even more destructive technology, war consumed all resources, plunging civilization into societal collapse. The cycle of destruction culminated in the creation of Earthmovers, resulting in the Earth being reduced to a wasteland where survivors were forced to live atop these monsters. However, prolonged conflict darkened the skies, depriving the Earthmovers of solar power and plunging the world into the long night. With these war machines silenced and the planet on the brink, humanity finally sought peace, beginning the long process of healing after 200 years of senseless destruction. This is some of the most concrete lore on humanity we've gotten throughout this entire game. However, we still don't know why the final war was fought. But at this point, I don't think it really matters. The war was fought, Earth was destroyed, and humanity came together to rebuild. Then, at some point, humanity discovered the existence of hell and began sending their obsolete machines on expeditions. Then, at some point, humanity was wiped out. So, all we need to complete the puzzle of humanity is how was hell discovered and why was humanity wiped out?